All right, folks, I'm back with another video on the junk home light generator. So last time we left off, I did a little work to the actual generator itself, put it back together, and then I couldn't get it to run because I had not only fuel leaks, but I also had the threads stripped out in the head for the spark plug. I originally thought that I just had a bad fuel line. One of the fuel lines was cracked, and it was. Turns out not only was that cracked, but actually the fuel pump itself started leaking fuel, and it was pouring out of there, so everything kind of just went downhill at once. And I did a little research, and this fuel pump is actually no longer even produced by Briggs. It's been phased out in favor of a different model. What I've done is just got a cheap fuel pump just to throw on here to see if I can get it working, because I didn't want to spend a bunch of time trying to find the right fuel pump. I'm not even sure if there's one that fits this, that's low profile, that goes back in here where it's supposed to. So I have this one rigged up for the time being to hopefully get us enough fuel that we can run it and see if my work on the generator is going to have it producing electricity with where I changed out that capacitor, if we've got other things to look at. But first, we've got to get in here and fix this spark plug. So it was recommended to me by several people to get a helicoil style repair kit. So that's what I bought here. This is actually helicoil brand. Yeah, it's Save a Thread spark plug port repair kit. Comes with the tap, some thread inserts, and the install tool. I also got some high temp RTV silicone. It says to use it to seal the threads. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull this head off so I don't have to worry about shavings getting down in the combustion chamber, and we'll rethread it and see what happens. Well, there you have it. There's the head, carbon deposits, gasket material. Okay, we'll see if we can get it fixed. Okay, I think so far so good. The aluminum head wasn't too hard to tap. Got nice clean threads. I'll clean that up, we'll come back and install the insert. Okay, I've got the right size thread insert for this spark plug. The instructions say to screw the insert in, well, put the sealant on, screw the insert in until it's flush with the top of the hole, the tapped hole, and then hit the flare tool a few times with the hammer to lock it into place. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the head. I know that the head gasket needs work. I think what I'm going to do is just wait until I see if the generator's going to work or not, and if it does, then I'll go back and put a new head gasket on it. But I don't have one right now, and I think I'm just going to tighten it down, just run it enough to see what's going on with the generator. So I'll go ahead and reinstall that head, and we'll see what happens. Okay, I've got the head torqued back down. I'll use a spark plug to help install the insert. Okay, there we go. The plugs came back out. Okay, it looks like the insert is exactly flush with the top of the head. So I'll get the install tool. The instructions say to place this expanding tool inside the insert, do not turn it, and hit it several times with a hammer, not too hard. Well, I'm not sure what not too hard means, but I'll try to take it easy. And it has a knurled section on top of the insert that expands out and holds itself, locks into the head. Okay, I think that did it. Okay, I'm back now. It's been about 24 hours. This sealant on the threads of the new spark plug insert should have had plenty of time to seal up. So I'm gonna see if we can get this pig running. Now I fixed what I think's the problem with the fuel pump. That old one was leaking, the lines were leaking. All that's replaced. Got fuel in it. Gonna try to start it, run it, see if we have any power coming out of the generator. So here we go, fingers crossed. I think we ran out of fuel. Well, it turns out a fuel pump that's not made for this generator or this engine at all doesn't actually have the same hose hookup as the old one did, and I wound up with a crankcase full of fuel. So I got all that drained out and put new fuel back in it. That was a pretty painful lesson. I was wondering why it wasn't running right, or running at all really. And it was getting fuel, well, it was getting it right into the crankcase. So anyway, I've got the fuel pump re-rigged again. We're gonna give her another shot and see if we can get power this time. Okay, so I got the head taken off, as we saw, and put a new spark plug insert in. Now I had it running long. It's not been running right since then. I don't know if it's sucking air past that bad head gasket or whatever, but I'll get to that if we can get the alternator producing power. We noticed that it was only producing like 2.5 volts. So I'm hoping that I can flash the field with 12 volts here, and maybe then it will allow it to produce power. So what I'm going to do is use this benchtop power supply I have here. Put it at 12 volts, see if we can flash it. All right. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. Now I decided to do some more digging here. I took this thing apart and I want to do a few more tests. You know, this is the first time I've ever really dove into one of these generators. I couldn't find an exact service manual for it, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos. But when I tried to flash that field, the first thing that I noticed is that there's the battery has power, has continuity directly to the outlets on the generator, which I can't see any reason why that should be the case. So it's actually grounded, the outlets are, which that comes from the stator to chassis ground here. So what we can see is that I've got the meter on continuity. I'm on the negative terminal of the battery. I can go over here to one of these leads for the outlet. We've got continuity. So apparently one of the windings inside is shorted to ground. Okay, the rotor shaft is shorted to ground, but that, you know, is reasonable because the rotor is going to be powered by the prime mover, which is the motor, and the motor is actually, the casing is grounded. So it seems reasonable that you would have path to ground on the rotor itself. Of course, the two slip rings, they're not connected to ground. There is no connection there. So the rotor's fine, but the stator, of course, is what the high voltage is generated in. And there's got to be a short in one of those windings that's shorted to this housing. So unfortunately it took me this long to figure it out, you know, and I've did all the other work on the motor and everything, but you know, it was a pretty good learning experience. I wish I would have tried one of those first. It makes sense that we could have just been picking up a little residual magnetism. When I was doing those tests earlier, I was going off a manual for one of the newer versions, and I wasn't doing the resistance check off ground that the winding for the most part could have about the resistance value I was looking for. But if I would have checked directly off of ground for continuity, it would have saved me some time. But I hate to leave the video like this with the alternator being dead, but looks like that's the case. Unless somebody sees something that I'm missing, you know, give me a comment and let me know and I'll give it a try. But as far as I could tell, with one of the main windings being shorted to ground, this thing's shot. So till next time, thanks. Yeah, if we look in here, we can see that the stator is pretty crusty. I mean, it's got rust and whatnot, which is not a total detriment, but as far as I can tell, it's got to be one of the insulation's probably gone on one of these windings, and somehow it shorted itself to chassis ground. So